Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and happy Arena Commander 1.0 day. I think it's a day that's going to live on as a very exciting day, but one that's also filled with a lot of bugs. I think that's also to be expected though, so make sure that you try and remain patient as they work through some of those. The couple ships that I really want to talk about today are going to be the Cutlass Black and the Omega, the Mustang Omega, specifically because those are the two new additions that I've actually been able to fly so far. Now, I've been having a really hard time getting into games, but I wanted to get some footage up so you could actually see them and kind of give you some initial first impressions on just how I feel about them so far. Now, I haven't been able to get into combat, so I will be doing a follow-up video on both of these ships, kind of talking about better tactics to use with them and just how effective they are overall. But first off, let's go ahead and start with the Cutlass. I think it's one of the ships that most people are excited about, and I think it's one of the ships that we know a lot about how it's supposed to perform. And I'm very happy to report, at least based on its flight mechanics, it lives up to what we expect out of it. It is crazy nimble. Top speed isn't outstanding. I don't think we necessarily expected it to be. But there's so many articulated maneuvering thrusters that this thing just turns on a dime. Flying it is borderline hilarious. I can imagine that. Well, I mean, let me put it this way. Comparing it to, like, the Hornet, which I typically fly, I mean, it's a joke how much faster this thing turns around. You know, I compare it to some of the other ships that I've tested, too, like the M50, and it's hands down the most maneuverable ship that I have flown in this game so far. It doesn't matter if you're rolling or whether you're yawing or whether you're trying to just do a 180 turn. Everything about the ship screams maneuverability. Basically, right now, you've got a couple weapons that are working for you, but all in all, the ship is nimble. I mean, that's the only way to really describe it, but it lives up to exactly what you hope it would there. So I'm excited to get it into combat and see how it actually holds up. You know, we've had these rumors about it being a glass cannon for a while. You know, now the question is going to be whether that actually ends up being the case, and then especially once we get the blue and red in the end of the game, we'll get to compare kind of the damage states and how well each of them hold up. The other ship that I've had the pleasure of flying is the Mustang Omega, and I have to say, the Mustang Omega is a surprisingly fun ship. You know, I expected to kind of have it just be a little tool-around ship. I picked it up just to really just kind of experience what it's like, but it turns out that I'm really digging it so far. Again, no combat experience with it. Its weapons are very limited. They're not gimbaled, so it's not going to be a combat master. However, it does handle very similar to like the M50 does. You know, its maneuverability is pretty good, but what makes it really outstanding is its acceleration. On top of that, when you've got a top speed of about 270 meters per second, this thing becomes fast. I mean, it is. I mean, it's going to be one of the faster ships in Arena Commander, so I can envision this thing being a real pest. It rolls pretty well, you know, it stops fast, it's very maneuverable, you can fly in between asteroids well, it responds well, and I think the biggest thing that we can talk about is the fact that it's got 3 engines and how, you know, kind of the overall benefits of having those. It becomes a very, I don't know, responsive ship, I guess is probably the best way to put it. I'm going to be interested to see how the additional engine on the Omega benefits it compared to something like one of the more stock Mustangs, and to see how those actually hold up. And then, you know, when we start talking about combat, how having the turret is actually going to benefit it and how those actually end up comparing and what ends up being the better option. I think this is going to be a pretty specific role, might make a decent scout, but based on just flight mechanics overall, it's a really fun ship to fly, and if you've got it, try and get in and fly it because you're going to enjoy it. So that's just my very early on take on both of these. I'm really happy with both of them so far. I'm going to be doing a cross-chassis upgrade on probably my Aurora to the Avenger once that's actually available, and I'll be kind of giving some opinions on that too. But stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of content coming over the next week because we've just gotten handed a golden ticket with a lot of good information. So until then, stay tuned. I appreciate you guys watching. Have a good night. Take care.